All week we've talked with people and heard stories about people either coming to Cleveland for the first time or coming back to Cleveland for the first time in a long time. First News anchor Dan Martin joins us again live from the Republican National Convention with a Northeast Ohio native who now calls the D.C. area home.
Yeah, Lauren, we've met a lot of great people here on Media Row in our time here the first few days of the Republican National Convention, and I'm happy to be joined by Kyle Kondik. He's a native of the Cleveland area up here, and you've been working in D.C. for a while, doing a lot of research about something we all know, how important Ohio is in picking a president in an election. Just tell me a little bit about your research and what you've been doing.
So yeah, I have a new book out called The Bellwether, Why Ohio Picks the President, and it talks about Ohio's kind of remarkable record of picking presidents. Over the last 30 presidential elections, it's voted with the winner 28 of those times. And the state is almost always very close to the national average.
Yeah, and with this convention, the Republican convention being here in Cleveland, Ohio, what does Donald Trump need to do now that he is the party's nominee going forward to carry this state and also the heavily Democratic areas here along Lake Erie in Northeast Ohio and also where we're from in the Mahoning Valley?
So Trump did really well in the primary in the Mahoning Valley. He did pretty well more broadly in the places in Ohio that are part of Appalachia. I think he needs to continue to do well in those places and then also retain traditional Republican strength in a lot of the big suburban counties around our three big cities of Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati.
And I wanted to ask you about this. This was a phenomenon we saw in our area, in our three-county area, but also in a lot of different parts of the state. With the open primary system, a lot of registered and lifelong Democrats went out to the primary polls, chose to get a Republican ballot, now seemingly either to vote for Donald Trump or to vote against Donald Trump. But we mentioned he carried our three-county area, Trumbull, Mahoning, and Columbiana. Just because those folks went out and voted for him in the primary, does that mean even any percentage of them would come out and vote for him in November? What are you hearing?
I think that there certainly should be some crossover vote, but then again, there'll probably be Republican crossover vote for Hillary Clinton because Trump doesn't necessarily appeal to all of the traditional Republicans. But I do think, again, if Trump is going to do well, I think he needs to do better than a Republican typically would do in the Mahoning Valley. And that, again, to your point, a lot of those folks who took a Republican primary ballot, they just wanted to, play in the Republican primary because that was the more interesting primary. Some states it's very hard to cross over, but in Ohio it's just as easy as taking the ballot you want in a particular year.
We will see now. We've got a few months now between now and November. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. You've done a lot of the research. What do you see in a matchup between Trump and Hillary Clinton, how Ohio could possibly vote on this?
So history tells us that Ohio typically votes for the winner, but it also has like a slight bit of a Republican lean. I will say that Donald Trump, I think, has to win Ohio because, of course, no Republican has ever won without the state. If Hillary Clinton carries Ohio, she should win the election.
All right. And Kyle, where can people pick up your book?
It is available online everywhere, and I believe in some Barnes & Noble and other bookstores in Northeast Ohio.
All right, this is Kyle Kondik. Thank you so much for taking a couple minutes. Interesting take there and a lot of things to think about as we move forward now, knowing who the Republican nominee for president is, Donald Trump. We'll be back in about 15-20 minutes with another look at security and how that's going here. But reporting live at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, I'm Dan Martin, WKBN 27 First News this morning.